Hey there, how's it going? We're gonna have a conversation today about self-gaslighting. Um, this idea that we don't deserve healing. So this can come in like so many different forms. You can believe that other people have it worse than us, so there's no point for us to complain about our situation. It's not that bad that we're just dealing with this mental health stuff. This conversation can sound really different for a lot of people, but you get the idea. We're basically, it's kind of the it's kind of the thing. Like when you're a kid, your parents are like, "Hey, there are kids in Africa who are starving, so eat your dinner." It's kind of that mentality, but on a larger scale. That's what we're going to be talking about today. So there are tons and tons of challenges that we face when it comes to emotional healing. And one of the ones that's pretty surprising to me is actually our own resistance to healing ourselves. Oftentimes, this resistance doesn't come from the fact that we don't want to heal. Like, nobody wants to be emotionally sick or physically sick, either way. Like, no one really wants that. So it's not that we don't want to get better, it's just that we have tons of limiting beliefs that we might not be aware of that are getting in the way of us being able to really dive into the healing process and feeling like we're worthy of diving into the healing process altogether. The thing that's important to understand is that the majority of us have been gaslighted our entire lives. So let me just explain gaslighting if you're not aware of what that means. It's basically the idea that someone is trying to convince you that your reality isn't your reality. So if you say, "Hey, I'm dealing with this thing," and they're like, "Oh, you're not really dealing with that. It's not that big of a deal." They're minimizing your situation. That's an example of gaslighting. It's important to also understand that people can gaslight you maliciously. They can do this on purpose. They can have an agenda to make you believe something that's not real. Or it can happen innocently. People just, sometimes they do it when they're trying to make you feel better. Sometimes people are just really stuck in patterns of invalidating themselves, and so they perpetuate that onto other people. So that's just a foundational understanding of what gaslighting is, and how it can, impact a person. It can be really detrimental, by the way. All right, so we've been gaslighted for a long time, most of us. What it looks like with parents a lot of the time, and what I've seen in my work, I have a particular story. I was doing family therapy, and a person made a comment about how they were feeling. Let's say they were saying something like, "I'm feeling sad." And the parent turned around and said, "No, you're not. I see how hard you're working. I see how diligently you're working on yourself. You're not sad." And in my head, all the alarms started going off, right? Because I know that this person was trying to communicate to their parents that something was wrong with them. But the parents were like, we're trying to make them feel better, but at the same time, this was a form of gaslighting, saying that, hey, your reality isn't what you're saying that it is. This can look like tons of different things, but that's one example. Another example is sometimes you can have like well-meaning friends who can gaslight us also. We can talk to them about our situation, let kind of air all of our feelings, and they say, "Man, that really stinks, but you know what? It's okay, because I know so-and-so, and they're going through this much, much worse situation than you, so at least it's not as bad." Well-meaning, but that can just make us feel really shitty for the fact that we're having the emotions that we're having. And then another example is we can even be gaslighted by like mental health providers, and we can tell them about how we're feeling, and they can come around and tell us things that are really frustrating. For example, when I was a kid, and I think this is one of my first psychiatrists that I went to go visit, and I talked to him about how I was feeling and my emotions and things. And after that, he just was like, "You don't look depressed." So that was really invalidating in the moment. Really, really confusing for a young kid who was dealing with a lot of depression, to have a medical professional tell you that's not your reality. No, you don't look depressed, so you're probably not depressed. That can be very confusing for a lot of people. So these are just a couple of different examples of how we are. A lot of people just, they don't do it on purpose, but they gaslight us into making us believe that our reality isn't true, that the things that we're experiencing and feeling aren't real. And that is, like I said, really damaging for a lot of folks. So over time, when all of these things happen to us, we get used to invalidating ourselves. It becomes kind of a pattern, something that is normal for us. But the thing is, this really can't, it's not sustainable to continue to invalidate ourselves, because we need to be on our own side. I'll talk about that a little bit more later. The thing is, what's going on, I guess, a subconscious level is your inner child is like, you're kind of like trapped with your inner child. Like, they're in that state where they're pretty like unsure about themselves because they've had all of these grown-ups and adults tell them things about their emotions that don't really match up to how they're actually feeling. So they've let go of what they're feeling, and they've started to trust what other people are saying instead of their own opinion. And we do this for survival, right? We want the people in our life to love us and appreciate us, so we want to listen to them. And also we think that listening to them is going to get us what we need, but that doesn't always happen. So what do we do about this? So basically, the solution to this self-gaslighting problem that you're having is to take your emotional pain seriously. This is not a joke. Like mental illness, this kind of stuff is not something to be messed around with. I want you to take this as seriously as you just got a diagnosis for like a terminal illness, right? When someone gets diagnosed with a terminal illness, they stop everything in their life and they pursue treatment for that terminal illness. That is the kind of space that you should be in if you're dealing with mental health concerns. Like, this is serious stuff. We oftentimes will downplay emotional health and wellness. Our parents might downplay emotional health and wellness. As a Black person, my parents were really resistant to mental health healing, and also, like, there was a lot of religious stuff that had to do with it too. But there can be tons of reasons why people all around you might be looking down on you for your emotional health struggles. But this is fucking serious, and you need to take this stuff seriously. So the fact that you are here interested in this stuff and you're asking these questions of yourself is important. So continue to take yourself seriously by asking these questions, and then I'm going to give you a couple of different things to work on that should start giving you, I guess, some first preliminary steps to go on. So the first thing is you want to deal with your resistance to healing first. Oftentimes there are like limiting beliefs that we hold that might make us kind of feel resistant towards healing. For example, like I talked about in the beginning, we might think that other people have it worse than us, so there's not much value in me pursuing this healing thing altogether, or it's not that serious and I don't need to do much about it. The question I would ask you is that belief serving you, or is it damaging to you? And this is kind of where you have to answer these questions for yourself. I can't tell you. Nobody really else can tell you these things. You have to start asking yourself these questions and listen to the answers that you start to receive. So there are 3 steps that I would give to a person to help them shift their limiting beliefs. I can make an entire video about this, but briefly, you can jot these notes down. So first, you want to just acknowledge the fact that there is a limiting belief present. If you can recognize it, that's great. So jot it down. And then next, what I want you to do is consider how that belief has served you in the past. We typically only will adopt beliefs that are functional in some ways. For example, when I was younger, suppressing my like gender and sexuality was something that helped keep me safe in my family. Um, so it served me very well back then, but after I moved out of that, it was no longer useful, and I had to move in a new direction, right? I had to say, wow, okay, I understand that that was useful for me in the past, but now that's no longer useful. So as an adult, I need to make not just acknowledging, but validating your own experiences in the past. So you can even think of situations where you felt invalidated as a child. Bring those to mind. I'm sure that there are several if you're in this situation. If you've adopted a pattern of gaslighting yourself over and over again and doubting yourself, there's definitely plenty of evidence of that. It's just how it goes. It doesn't always have to be in your family. Sometimes it can be in school. There's tons of places where you can start to adopt these beliefs. So take a look and see exactly what's coming up. And then after you've started to validate your own experiences in the past and understand how they could have impacted you to this day, I want you to try a visualization exercise. I found these super helpful, and I also want to mention that when I say visualization, I don't always mean like you're like seeing something. Sometimes you're just sensing or feeling things. Anyway, what I want you to do is just imagine. Imagine that you're meeting with this child. For example, you think about a situation when you were younger and maybe you said something to your parent and they invalidated you. That's a great example. So just visualize yourself as a child at that age and almost imagine kind of like pulling that little version of you close, looking at them and just saying like, I believe you. Like, I know that your parents or whoever else in the situation didn't believe you, but I believe you, and I know that what you're saying is serious and important. It might seem silly, like you're just talking to yourself, but this is very, very useful for our subconscious mind. Our subconscious mind really enjoys being able to kind of like externalize our own pain. It helps us communicate to ourselves. We're so multifaceted as human beings, and we're very complex. And so trying out these different techniques can really help make things seem a little bit less confusing and almost help us develop a better relationship with ourselves. So try out that visualization exercise. It's been helpful for me, so I hope that it's helpful for you as well. And then my last note, and this is probably the most important one, is that you work on developing self-trust. You have to listen to yourself. Your feelings really matter. When your gut says something, like your gut says like, hey, something is really wrong, and you talk to people and they just like don't get it, don't give up on the fact that you have that gut feeling. Like, keep pushing until you get what it is that you need. So I want you to try this out. Ask yourself this simple question, and it'll help you kind of notice if there's any resistance to your self-trust. So just ask yourself, what is the worst thing that would happen if I trusted myself? There might be things that come up to your mind immediately. A lot of fears can come up when you ask yourself this question, and that's actually exactly what you want to do. You want to bring up the resistance to your self-trust, and that'll help you kind of take the next steps you need to take. And then what I want you to do is to start doing what you want. Start doing things that feel good. You need to show yourself that you can give yourself the things that you want in life. And I would start small, right? There might be some big issues in your life that you can't manage to change. Maybe it's your living situation. Maybe it's a partner that you're with. Like, there are tons of different situations that sometimes we don't have control over that large picture. But there are areas in our life where we do have control. So even if that means like you have the choice between like doing nothing on one evening and doing something that feels good on one evening, like that is a choice that you do have. So claim the fact that you do have power in this situation, even if it's not in the way that you want to have power, and start to take advantage of that. Start to make yourself feel good as much as possible. So the thing is, stop gaslighting yourself. Because people do this all the time. They'll have an emotion that'll come up and they'll say like, I shouldn't be feeling this way. It happens all the time in my work. People will say like, you know, such and such a thing happened last week and I just can't understand why I'm still feeling sad about it. Like so-and-so got over their situation so quickly and I don't know why I can't get over the situation. You can't get over it because you're not acknowledging your feelings, my friend. You have to acknowledge your feelings and take yourself seriously. And yeah, this is so important. Like, your intuition is speaking to you loudly, but sometimes we've gotten so good at turning that off because typically it's because other people have told us that it's not valuable to trust ourselves. This is another important point. If you have a religious background, you are taught to not trust yourself. You are taught that your inner nature is inherently sinful, it's inherently dangerous, it's inherently evil, right? And that's what needs to be atoned for. Okay, I can go on a whole rant about that, but it's not a useful pattern of belief to carry if we want to start to trust ourselves. I will end my rant there because I could go on for a long time. Because I think, yeah, obviously I have a lot of opinions about this because it was something that I experienced, but I still see it impacting other people, and I can see how they have completely let go of their own kind of like internal guidance system to follow something outside of themselves, like, and have not really considered their own opinion. All I'm asking for you is to look at yourself and understand that I want you to change that perspective of your inner nature being inherently sinful to understanding that like your inherent nature is like amazing, right? It's incredible, it's powerful. Yeah, we downplay our magnificence so often, and all I'm asking for you is to give yourself a chance to open your eyes to how incredible you are. Start trusting your gut. Start trusting the little voices in your head that are trying to tell you things that are important to you. And if people don't listen to you, you might need to be talking to some different people. Yeah, get people in your corner who support you, who believe you, who trust in your opinion, who value your opinion, and that'll help you do the same for yourself. Thanks for showing up and sticking around. I will post a link to our Facebook community. So if you are struggling and you need a community of other folks who are going through similar things, you can check us out and join us there to see if some of that healing work is going to be useful for you. And also let me know if you have questions about emotions or emotional healing, and I'll make a video. This video was inspired by a question from a viewer, so I appreciate them and would appreciate your questions as well. So thank you so much for sticking around. I will see you tomorrow. Peace and love. Have a good night.